Well guys, you guys want to hear an X15 hopefully run? So I poured 12 gallons of oil on it this morning, and I made a hose to go from the fuel filter to the inlet on the lift pump. I've primed it about 2 or 3 times, and I already tried it just a little bit, and I knew, like I told you guys the other day, they only got one positive cable going to the starter, to the coil, and they've got one ground. And I was like, that's just not going to be enough. I'll try it. And it didn't even hardly want to turn over. So I got some big jumper cables and another battery, and they're hooked right onto the starter. And then I just kind of bumped it again, and it spun over. And I thought, well, that's going to be what we're going to have to do. Let's turn on the key. Oh yeah, the lift pump. She's laboring down now there, Josie girl, huh? He says, Dad, you gonna get this thing going, or what's the deal here? Okay, we're gonna hook up the laptop to it because I'm not gonna have any gauges. I want to see oil pressure if it starts. Hopefully it starts. And I had some stuff unhooked here, so I know I'm gonna get a bunch of codes that I didn't have in there yesterday that we'll look at that real quick and see where we're at. Okay, we don't need the work order. Grandma was slow, but she was old. Okay, let's go to fault codes. And we know the 197 coolant level is going to be there. Okay, so it's pretty much the same thing we had yesterday. Alright, so let's go over here to data monitor. She's taking a little while to load up there. Okay, so let's go over here to sensors. Double click on that. Let's see if we can find engine oil pressure. Engine coolant temperature, engine oil pressure. Let's highlight it like that. Let me go see what my girly here is growling at. Is there somebody in here, girly? Josie? What's going on out there? I'm gonna have to kick the shit out of somebody, or what do we got to do here? Oh, somebody walking down the road. You watch them sons of bitches, girly. Won't be stealing no $900 worth of merchandise here. You only steal one time, and that's the only chance you get. And I'm not calling the cops once I deal with you. How you like that? Okay. Let's see what happens here. Okay, we have a running X15, guys. Let's see if anything came up. Nothing came up. Took a little while to get her to start because, of course, the fuel system's been pretty well drained on it. But I'm going to start her one more time just to see how she starts. I'm going to go ahead and clear the codes that I do have. There's, of course, when you unhook the battery and stuff, and I did it yesterday with the key off, you're going to have that 1117 code. So let's go ahead and reset all fault codes. Yes. Okay, well, let these clear, and we'll be back. Okay, guys, so we cleared those codes that were inactive just to, and I've got an idea on a throttle position. So I had Tom look up the VIN off this truck, because I don't have the original engine serial number, and I saw on Quick Serve that they were only giving you, well, they had a Teleflex throttle, but they only had one option for a Williams Controls throttle. I'm thinking it might be analog, and what we got going on, we got pulse width off the ECM going to an analog throttle. So my idea is to add a wire to pin 10, I think it was 64. Add 2 wires, run them up to the signal lines on it, and give her another try. But let's see how she starts now that we've had it running. Here we go, guys. Let's go back to live data so we see our pressure. I'm gonna get this down here. Here we go, Josie. Oh, that's kind of weird, huh? Just kind of quit on me there. I don't know what that was all about, but got a little air in the system. Yeah, I lost communication because it drew it down enough that it lost communication with the laptop. But she's a runner, guys, and she's got oil pressure. And with that being said, now we can really start kicking ass and get this thing done. We know she runs, and so the next thing I'm going to do before I start continuing on with all this other stuff, I'm going to run those 2 wires. I'm going to run those 2 wires from the ECM up to my signal lines and see if anything changes there. I had 1117 because it drew it down. It just drew it down far enough to where. So let's see if we can get rid of these 2 now. This one, the 4289 and the 4149. I really think we've probably got an analog setup on the throttle pedal going to a pulse width throttle. Let me disconnect. And we'll go ahead and cancel out. It's going to take a little while to do that. We got to eat some lunch anyway. Shut her down. Shut her down. There goes the turbo. It's nice when you hear the DGT cycling back and forth, and then you know that's working right. I don't see any piles of oil on the ground, but I do know it's not even on the stick now because these ISXs, I mean, that cavity in the head there, I mean, there's probably a good gallon or 2 in there that it holds. And once you prime up the system and get the oil moved everywhere, it's probably going to take 13 or 14 gallons to get it full. I need a couple more gallons. Okay, guys, so we got success. We added a wire to pin 10 for APS, which accelerator pedal position sensor number 1. And we added a wire to pin 64. And now we have great success. Now you'll see that there's only 3 active codes left in there. This one is actually, there's only, the water and fuel sensor is not going to keep the check engine light on. It's a maintenance. That's why it's blue. The only thing that's going to keep the check engine light on, that one there, we know that it's going to be solved when we pour antifreeze in it. This is the only one. Basically, I got 1 code that's going to keep the check engine light on. This one here, I don't know. I wish you could get in there in features and parameters and disable it, but they've got it as locked read only. I'll show you. I'll show you why we're here right now. Come on. It's reading the feature information. And I noticed that this went down to 2 up here on the dash, so that tells you right there that you've got your check engine light wired correctly. So let's go with, if you go, I changed this, so you can go over here, guys. If you're, go over here and you can change this, see? You can drop down and go to dual pulse width modulation, which it was at dual pulse width modulation, but now we're at dual analog. So that's what was going on. This ECM on the newer truck that it came out of on the 579 Peterbilt was set up for dual pulse width modulation, and this sensor is a dual analog sensor. So having it plugged into that sensor, it didn't know what to do, because it's not wired internally the same, and your signal lines are coming off different pins as well. And of course, dual pulse width modulation is completely different than an analog signal. So what was I gonna show you? Oh, water and fuel. Water and fuel, right there it is. Water and fuel sensor. You can't change it. It says there's a lock on it. This feature is locked because water and fuel sensor is read only. So I think the only options are either just leave it alone, and anytime somebody plugs into it, they're gonna have that code in there. It's not gonna throw the check engine light on though. You'll never know that code is there until you plug in with a laptop, because it's not gonna show up here either, because this truck was never set up with a water and fuel sensor, so there's nothing even available even in the dash. So like I'm saying, you'll never even know it's there unless you plug into it. And I don't know, I'll have to talk to the owner and see if he's concerned about that or not, or he'll just have to tell whoever plugs into it down the road, down south, tell them just beforehand, hey, it's gonna have a water and fuel sensor code, don't worry about it, you know. Okay, so now that we know that, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead now, guys, and solder all those wires that I just put in there and split limb them and get them tied up to where they're supposed to be. I still can't, you know, I'm thinking here, I'm gonna see what they got in stock. Let's figure out gauges. The easiest, simplest way to do it without doing a whole bunch of wiring is just tie into the data lines coming off to the data link connector and put, you know, the volt gauge obviously still works. The coolant temp's not gonna work because it's coming off the engine. The air pressures, they'll still work. But basically, I think what I'm gonna do is order an engine oil pressure gauge, an engine coolant temp gauge, and a manifold pressure. Then I'll order a manifold pressure gauge and a def tank. You have to have a def tank gauge. So either we're gonna have to drill a hole in the dash, or I don't know, unless he wants to get rid of his suspension load gauge. I'll have to call him and ask him. Either we're gonna have to make another hole for another gauge, or he's gonna have to get rid of one of these that he's not using. So the ABS light is on, because that's another thing that I've got to figure out here. I was noticing that too. I'll have to look on quick serve. We got to figure out, I don't know if the new ECM is set up with the 1587 protocol. The 1587 protocol is going to be for communicating with the ABS controller, the brake controller, and the cab controller. So I didn't see that in there, so that might be a problem there. Anyway, I'll figure that out. Because I guarantee you, if I try to communicate with, if I get my Texa unit and I try to communicate with the cab controller and all that other stuff, that it's never going to do anything. So let's go over here to the data monitor. Let's see if the throttle is reading anything at all. So we go over here to all parameters. Okay, now you'll see that the accelerator pedal or lever position sensor 2 supply voltage is 5 volts. And that tells you the signal voltage right there is 0.5 volts. Let me get a screwdriver because I've got it actually unhooked where I can twist the position sensor, and you should see it change there. Let's see here, let's stick it in the little square slot there. Now you should see that change. See that changing now? Okay, and you can see the actual accelerator pedal lever position sensor voltage down here, and then it should change for position 1 down here, see? And we can even go a little further and start the thing and see if it revs up. We can do that real quick too. But I'll have to hook this other battery up. Let's just see if, make sure the throttle's gonna work. Okay, let's see what we got here. We got the voltage there. Here we go. Huh, keeps doing that. It's got air in the fuel system or something. Throttle works. Okay guys, we got throttle. It's okay, Gertie, it's okay. I'll go ahead and connect to the ECM, just make sure nothing came up that I know I need to fix while I'm sitting here with this thing plugged in. I'm pretty happy so far. We're getting her narrowed way down. We know basically, really, we only got one code in there, that differential pressure sensor over there on the SCR catalyst. That's pretty much all we got left. And it might straighten up by itself once we get everything running and get the exhaust gas moving through it. Come on now, Grandma was slow, but she was old. I don't care about that shit. Piss off. Oh, you know what? I probably need to calibrate this thing. So let's go ahead and clear these, and might start it back up and see if those come back. God, Josie. I love that dog to death, but I've had a lot of dogs in my life. But she has the stinkingest ass on her I've ever had of any damn dog. My God, she'll drive you right out of the building. She'll do a drive-by farting, a walk-by farting, and she just walked by me, and it's just, holy shit, man. It makes your nose curl up. Holy shit. You can taste it. Ugh. She's a good girl, but boy, she's got a stinky butt on her, huh? Yes, yes, you do, baby. Yes, you do, honey. That's okay, sweetheart. I got one, too. I got me a stinky butt, too. Kind of curious to see. I wonder if I'd put that one charger cooler line back on. We'll just see what happens, I guess. It's gonna probably throw the 1117 code again, but we'll see what happens. I might throw that charger cooler line on real quick, guys, just so it's not as noisy. You hear a lot of air moving around the turbo. Let me get this prompt here done, and then I'll do that. Waiting for this thing to get done with its code clearing. Just want to make sure that throttle doesn't come back. I just calibrated it. I did the 3 strokes there with it. We'll see what it does. Those should go away. Okay, let me go put this charger cooler hose on. Well, I'm telling you, when I first got this harness in there and I plugged it in, I had 4 pages, 4 complete pages of codes, and now I'm down to this. So we've come a long ways, man. Okay, let's see what happens here. Let me cycle the key again. Lost communication, so I don't know if it threw the code or not. Yeah, I like them when they smoke. I like them when they smoke. Let's see if it threw them throttle position codes again. I calibrated it, so maybe I don't know. We'll see what happens here. That's kind of weird how they do that, and they'll say they're connected to the ECM and they're not connected to the ECM, and seemed a little bit lethargic sometimes where it doesn't want to communicate. Okay, so that would appear that we've got that solved. Oh, quit. I wish they didn't do that and ask you for that bullshit every time. Okay, guys, I'll clear that 1117 code. And then solder my wires up that I did there for the throttle, and then we'll start try to figure out this DPF SCR catalyst assembly. We can pull that clutch and flywheel that's on there off, put the new clutch he's got, and he's got another flywheel too that's been resurfaced. We'll put it on there, and we can probably start working on either getting the transmission back in it and drive line and air tank. So there's a lot of stuff to still do here, and I'm not going to even tidy any of this stuff up till I know that I've got, I still know that I've got a wire. Let's go out here and look in the, I laid his transmission out here because when I got the truck, the transmission and stuff was in the back of the bed, and we took that hay squeeze that I retrofitted. It was the only thing high, well, I could have got it out there with my crane, but I used his hay squeeze and lifted it out of there. And I set his transmission right over here. Let's see what kind of transmission temp center's on this thing. This is an FRO transmission, I think. Yeah. Where's should be a transmission temp sensor here somewhere. Should be. I don't even see. I thought they were right there. There's the cooler lines, obviously. Down there. Oh, maybe that's it? Or is that the PTO indicator? That's the PTO indicator. I don't know, maybe there's a gauge in there for it, so it's got it. Is that it or is that the backup? I thought they were on the side of the transmission just like a regular manual transmission, but I mean, that is a manual transmission, but still gotta wire transmission temp, speed. I gotta wire the speed for the speedo. Then I gotta wire cruise. You know, the cruise control. I might actually call. You know, I don't know. Is anybody out there driving a 579 that's watching this? I haven't been around the 579. You know what? What am I thinking? There's a 579 sitting right over there. The story with that truck, we've been periodically working on it. The owner decided to go ahead and in-frame it since it had 600,000 miles on the engine. And he said, just go ahead and in-frame it. Well, we got the wrong liners. I started matching up part numbers and they sent me 0.25 millimeter over liners. They're the wrong ones. And I just got the right liners today. But I got the cam in it, new cam bearings. This is a 579. I'm kind of curious what the cruise switch is. If the cruise switches will just... Where is the cruise at? Where's the cruise at? So that's the cruise switches right there. Right there. So, let's look at the cruise switches in that. And you know what we might be able to do is we might be able to just order a couple cruise switches. The on-off resume switch and the set switch, all that stuff. And just wire it into the CAN network and enable it with the multiplexing. That might be the less, you know, that'll save a guy a lot of time for not having to wire different things to the ECM. Yeah, I think they'll go right in there. They're the same style switch. I'm gonna call with the VIN number for the truck this engine came out of, and I'm gonna order those switches. Why didn't that 1117 code clear? Why didn't that clear? Come on now, work with me. So we've got to make a couple more battery cables. We'll probably come off this battery down here on the positive, and then come off this ground down on this end for the negative, and we'll run 2 more cables to the starter to take care of that issue. And that'll make it crank over and spin over the way it's supposed to. That 1 cable each just ain't enough. You can't carry enough amperage through those cables. Maybe if you had 2 4-aught cables instead of 2 double-aught cables, you might get enough through there. But we'll just make a couple more double-aught cables and run them down to the starter to solve that problem. So anyways, guys, that'd probably do it for this video, and I'll be back with some more stuff. I just thought you guys might like to see this girl run. She's gonna be a trooper, and we're gonna work on some of the SCR catalyst stuff over here and start trying to get some of that stuff figured out. We're gonna have to get some def lines. Whoever took these off broke them. See, they broke the ends clear off of them. I got them plugged in just so the circuit the heater circuit, just to get, you know, just to make sure I got all the codes out of it. But I'm gonna have to buy, I think one of these is good. One of these is still a good line. That's still a good one there, but this other one's bad. Look, it's all been melted. This truck must have caught on fire or something. That one's all melted. But anyway. Okay, guys, well, it is what it is.